I can't tell if this one is meant to be ironic, sarcastic, or earnest. Because the premise of this video seems to be, caution Republicans, beware the 2022 midterm landslides. Break down Huckabee. So this is like, watch out, it's going to be a landslide. It's going to be great. Look out. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Or he's like, oh shit, be careful. We may be killing off all of our own people by blowing off COVID again. Right? Let's see. There'll be an ad. Sorry.
Hey everybody, stop clicking around. I am in the woods with some water going in the background near my house.
Excuse me. First of all, there is no Patriot solar. The sun is communist. Gives light and energy without asking for anything back. We have to put an end to the sun. Until we can put a lampshade on the sun. It's unpatriotic. It shines on China too. How can that be possible? Can't light the sun. It'll give light to anybody. Some people are starting to call me Hal the Body Sparks. All right, I need to jack up a little bit. Thicken out my neck, yeah. That'll be good. If I could lower that helps. I think that's a good look. I'm looking good right now. Yeah. All right. It's Sparksism. Here we go. Huckabee, who's not looking tired at all.
Two Republican hopefuls settle into the race. More Harv evidence of big tech bias is put on.
Harv evidence. Harv evidence. He's one of my favorite old radio detectives. Harv evidence. Dun, 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 dun. Tonight's Harv evidence is brought to you by Shell Oil, the slickest, most generous oil you'll ever put in your car. You don't want your engine grinding up to a... oh, shit. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Shell Oil. Harv evidence. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Tonight's episode. Viagra, I never met ya. Right.
Play. And New Yorkers get yet another lesson in why not to trust their politicians. That's coming up on The Breakdown. The Senate.
And that's exactly the kind of music that Huckabee likes to get down to. That's why he personally chose that as his stinger music.
Field seems to be set for 2022 with announcements from the last Republican holdouts, Senators John Thune of South Dakota and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. They both have said they're running for re-election.
Said others? Authors? Said others. Oh, God. He's reading, and it's not going very well.
5 Republicans are retiring, but they're all from solid red states. Thune is as well. Now, Democrats think they might be able to win Wisconsin, and they're already attacking Johnson for breaking his promise not to run for a third term. But
and by the way, he also spent the 4th of July in Russia and thinks we shouldn't vaccinate the populace and doesn't generally give a shit about the people of Wisconsin at all.
That any alternative would be a Democrat?
Thanks, Kevin.
That might not be a winning message this year. Also, it's kind of hard to swallow that line of attack about someone wanting a third term when we currently have the oldest Senate in U.S. history. And the oldest serving senator, Democrat Dianne Feinstein, is 88 years old.
Yeah, that's up to California. See, Dianne Feinstein, when she got that job, she didn't lie to California and said she was only going to do 2 terms. She just ran for Senate and ran for Senate again. She just kept getting reelected. Ron Johnson lied to the Wisconsin voters. That's how he first got a toehold in there, knowing that once you're an incumbent, who gives a shit? You can just stay in there. You don't have to actually keep your promises that no one made you make.
Been in office for 30 years. The only Democrat who's announced his retirement is Pat Leahy, and he's 81 years old and has been in office for 47 years. By their own standards, a 2 terms.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why we listen to people with white hair. I mean, if you're an old dude and you've been talking this shit for a long time, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, why we even listen to these guys? Old is bad. Old. What do old people know? Probably just how to be old and old stuff.
Is barely broken in his.
Yes. I'd like to bring on Chuck Grassley right now to talk about it. Well, I'm older than brontosaurus shit.
34 of the 100 Senate seats are up.
Why are you doing whip noises? Is someone kung fuing your graphics? Fucking hell.
This year, 20 of those are Republican. Ordinarily, that might be cause for concern. But with Joe Biden on the Democrat side, Republicans shouldn't have that much trouble sweeping the floor.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother you that the Fox News poll puts him 3% higher than Trump ever was at what's arguably one of the lowest points in his trend, because it's going to trend upwards. Sorry to tell you that, because you fuckers are the ones who want to use year-over-year inflation. So if you don't recognize the downturn the year before and you over-recognize the spike, the next year, even if it goes up normally, it's going to look like it's down from the percentage change from the year before. All right, never mind. Fucking
They're blue-in-the-face opponents. That said, it's important to note that a major reason that Republican prospects look so hopeful in 2022 and 2024 is not so much because their messaging has been particularly potent, but because the Democrats' messaging has been so very bad. Neither side is connecting with the public en masse particularly well, but Democrats are active.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, dude. Masks will still be an issue next summer.
Enraging the public right now. That's why Republicans will likely win in 2022. But good advice, Mike. Yes, Republicans, if you're listening to Mike Huckabee and to the sound of my voice, please run on masks, yes or no, next summer during the post primary section. Yeah, go for it. Swing for the fences. Keep bringing up masks in November of this year. It'll be a winning issue. You'll just hang in there. Republicans don't do something to connect with the public at large, like cracking down on big tech, for example. Another red wave in 2024 will be a lot less certain. On the subject of big tech, Fox News.
I'm seeing. Republicans have to attack Facebook, otherwise they'll never be able to get advertising paid for in rubles like they did in 2016. And because they didn't have that, Trump lost, but a bunch of other Republicans won. Fucking hell.
Reports that according to Federal Election Commission records.
All right, oh my God, another. What are you playing, Fruit Ninja? The fuck is this?
94% of donations, 94% from the top employees of Google, which by the way owns YouTube, all of those go to Democrats, as do 99% of donations from Twitter employees. That's no.
That's weird. So the biggest companies, the most successful companies, the biggest money-making companies in this entire sector give most of their money to Democrats, even if the idea is the Democrats supposedly run on raising their taxes. So Republicans suck so bad that giant corporations that make shit tons of money, and I guess believe in a lot of individual exceptionalism, because learn to code, buddy. The movement in those circles is fairly strong in in sort of idealistic libertarian belief systems, and yet they give their money to Democrats. It might be that they're data driven, and they notice that the economy always does better under Democrats, even if they're cleaning up the mess of a previous Republican that screwed the pooch.
That both platforms are routinely accused of silencing and censoring conservative voices.
Yeah, but they also were accused of allowing Russians to buy ads for Trump and other Republicans, paying for it in rubles. Doesn't mean it was fact, honestly. But they're just being vocal about how they stop all kinds of extremism, and in this particular sense, you guys are mostly it. You know what I mean? If you're in charge of the dog shit, You don't follow the cat around.
On it, they deny it or claim that it was just a mistake, as YouTube just did after reinstating a song critical of Biden's botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Gee.
Oh my God. They took down a song? Oh my God. Could it be a spoof song that they actually stole the melody from? Hold on. What was the actual? A music video produced by famed singer John Ondrazik, titled "Blood on My Hands," went viral this week after being removed and then reinstated on YouTube. The video, which used real-world footage depicting atrocities by the Taliban and the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, reportedly flagged as having violated YouTube's graphic content policy. Oh, so it was his fault? He was the suicide bomber? He wrote a song
Afghanistan withdrawal. Gee, remember when songs criticizing the government were considered classics of the 1960s?
Yeah, asshole, if you read the article you just posted, they didn't pull it down because of the content of the song or the lyrics. It's because of footage of people being blown to smithereens, fucko. I can remember when conservatives didn't want more sex and violence on the internet. Remember that? Kids might see this. Right? No? They didn't take the fucking song down, dummy. Don't cite a fucking article and then expect us not to check it out. Jesus Christ.
When all your mistakes point in one direction, they're clearly intentional mistakes.
Well, no, that's not true. You keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Choice of graphics, your set, wardrobe, aftershave, hair salon, all of it. You make multiple mistakes in the same direction, but you're not doing it on purpose. You don't know any better.
YouTube claimed that the video's images might be offensive to some audiences.
Yeah, the images, just images? It's just images. What were the images of?
They are. Mostly Biden campaign aides, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Good point. Huckabee gets a boner when he sees people blown to pieces.
Still, even with the growing likelihood of a Republican takeover of Congress, many GOP voters are discouraged that Republican Congress members publicly complain about big tech leftist censorship, but they won't change any laws to stop it or make them legally accountable. But there might just be another way to force Silicon Valley to end its biased business practices. Charles Glasser.
What? How about this? Convince them that your ideas are better? I'm fucking around. No, just threaten them probably, right?
Explained on Instapundit how people who have been harmed by big tech censorship might be able to get around their Section 230 immunity and sue. By the way.
Yeah, that sounds, it's the American way. It really is. I mean, I'm glad that Huckabee's trying to get us back to the original, direction of America before we got lost our way, and became litigious assholes.
They should have lost that immunity long ago for their blatant violation of the requirement not to act as editors of content.
Well, no, because they have to moderate content, and that qualifies. They must. Although, if they didn't have that in there, they would either be sued out of oblivion, or they would have to get a free reign to post and leave up anything anybody posts. So, being as pro child porn and ISIS beheading video as Mike Huckabee is, he's probably leaning in that direction, I'm guessing. Because without Section 230, they either can't exist, they just have to be wiped out entirely, because nobody could, nobody could allow people to post stuff if they were on the hook from it. So it'd either be a paid service and the TOS would be brutal. You'd have to, every post would need an approval process by another individual, enjoy Twitter or Facebook that way. Or, and this is more the direction he wants because, freedom, they just let you post whatever. Nobody's allowed to take anything down. So Huckabee could have all the beheading videos and child porn he could want.
If Republicans know what's good for them, they'll make really sure that big tech loses 230 immunity before 20.
And by the way, if they do, Rumble won't exist. Rumble is he's on Rumble. He's on Rumble. Rumble is protected by 230. If Rumble was not protected by 230, they'd be gone. They'd have been sued out of existence. And I think they've only been around for a couple of years, like within 30 days.
24.
Thanks.
Now, it's a complicated legal argument, but in a nutshell, this is it. If the administration has been...
The article mentions in passing the Supreme Court rulings that have held that private entities may not engage in suppression of speech at the behest of government, as it has the same effect as direct government censorship. Although, I don't think the shareholders have standing to sue on anything but the thinnest of corporate governance rules. Let me explain how this may open the floodgates and create accountability for big tech censorship. We know that as private actors, a debatable proposition, but let's accept it for a moment. Private actors, you mean private companies, private corporations? They all are. He's making an argument that Twitter, Facebook, and these things are now public utilities, and these assholes don't even think public utilities should be free, so I don't know what the fuck that argument is about. Big tech, TM, cannot be held liable for violating First Amendment rights, but there have been notable cases where the media worked so hand in hand with government in violating constitutional rights, they were considered government agents for the purposes of 42 U.S. Code 1983, which allowed a private right of action for the violation of established constitutional rights when the private entity is acting under color of law. No, it isn't. They weren't taking... this one falls under why you can't post ISIS beheading videos and child porn, which is very upsetting to Instapundit, clearly, and incredibly upsetting to Mike, child porn beheading video fan Huckabee. Because there's really no other argument for why. And by the way, we've looked at the Getter TOS. We've looked at the Parler TOS. We've determined that both sites are POS. And it shouldn't surprise anybody that, they operate under 230 and operate under the protections of 230 to protect them from being sued by ISIS for violating their free speech or some shit, which in theory could happen if you get rid of 230 as well, because they want this to stand as an absolute right, and they also want the government to force private entities to carry public channels for either, I guess, government employees, specifically the president, but also any individual that they deem important. So, Huckabee gets automatic, verified status on any site that starts, posts whatever the fuck he wants, all the child porn and beheading videos he could stand, and they can't do anything about it.
Including with these companies to silence users they disagree with, which it seems...
Yes, they for the record, Twitter and Facebook do have big disagreements with people who behead people or exploit children sexually. I know Huckabee doesn't, but that's his cross to bear.
Pretty obvious that they are. Then there is precedent to show that they are acting as de facto government agents rather than private businesses.
And to people who are saying that's already illegal under the law, it's not. These are international companies now, so they go, yeah, this isn't available. These are on our servers in Iran,
which means they are required to obey the First Amendment. And if they can be held legally accountable for every time that they have violated a user's right.
And by the way, no user has a right to your microphone. No one. And anybody who suggests that is a commie son of a bitch. What kind of Stalinist bullshit is this? The microphone is the people's microphone, and the people... Hold on. Until now, I have not agreed with the Mike's Huckabee. Miss Comrade Huckabee knows that all mics are the people's microphones, and if any company starts up something, the people can march in and seize the place and post whatever they want, even if it is the opposite If you set up a Christian dating service, I can launch pornography must be put in if Stalin enjoys it in this current form.
Free speech.
Yes.
The floodgates of lawsuits will be thrown wide open. It couldn't.
Yes, and that is what we do. We use the American system against them. This is what we do. We use their own legal system to destroy them. It is so very smart, Comrade Huckabee.
Happen to a more deserving group of defendants. Now, I'm not holding my breath that's going to happen, but I'll certainly.
But you will be holding your breath if you violate the internal code of Stalingrad.
Dreaming about it. And finally, New York City voters just got a harsh double whammy lesson in what bait and switch really means.
I've always wanted to go to New York ever since I saw the great Robin Williams in Moscow on the Hudson. What a wonderful man. Sorely missed. We love this fellow. I understand that he could put on any hat or some sort of thing and create a character out of nothing. Madness, I tell you. In my country, he would be thrown in an institution. Only in America could this craziness be allowed. And yet I enjoy it. I'm not going to lie. I once spanked it to Miss Doubtfire. I like a woman with some meat on her bones, even when that meat is padding.
With Bill de Blasio's socialist mismanagement that has resulted in skyrocketing crime and fleeing residents, they voted in some new Democrats.
Yes, but yeah, his socialism created all the crime. I don't know if you know this, but they now have this like crime sharing program. It's terrible, where they just like if you're not a criminal, you have to take a shift as a criminal. Take each according to your need to take to whomever's. Oh shit.
Claim they'd be different, and then the minute they were in office, they started giving the people de Blasio 2.0. First, new Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg announced that he was basically...
Back, back the fuck up. Like, maybe you do need, like, whipping. Okay. So, look, what the fuck is that? Did you fuck up? There you go. That's what he wanted up, right? Manhattan's progressive new DA, Alvin Bragg, just gave a green light for anarchy. Oh, that's all right. There you go. Anarchy. Do tell. Specifically, well, you can't specify with anarchy. Anarchy is a lack of specificity is integral to the concept of anarchy. It's a specific form of anarchy I'm talking about. A very narrowly threaded needle. Bragg says his office will not seek a carceral sentence for anything short of murder or deadly assault. Carceral being progressive, doublespeak for prison. Also, he says minor crime won't be prosecuted at all. In other words, jail is to be reserved for axe murderers and their ilk. Armed robbers, heavyweight drug dealers would be minimally inconvenienced. And just forget about the quality of life law enforcement that was the beating heart of the Giuliani rescue of New York City decades ago. Okay. Will not seek carceral sentence. All right, let's see what that is. So nobody gets incarcerated. Does he mean prison versus jail, like 90 days for other stuff? Murder or deadly assault. So rape is now legal in New York. Is that what Huckabee would have us believe? Let's see. Alvin Bragg carceral. That'll do. Will not seek carceral. Okay. Reversing effects of mass incarceration is an urgent moral civil rights. This is from Alvin Bragg's Manhattan DA-elect. Throughout his career, Alvin has worked to address the effects of mass incarceration. For example, he led the Attorney General's review of stop and frisk policies, which showed that only 0.1% resulted in a conviction for a gun offense. He also led the Attorney General's work to address the effects of the school-to-prison pipeline, investigating to... Okay, unfortunately, the current Manhattan DA is disproportionately contributing to mass incarceration. Let's see. Alvin believes the sentence should be imposed for particularly violent crimes, such as homicide, violent sexual assault. Oh, okay, that's interesting. He does include violent sexual assault. And they routinely are imposed in the other 4 boroughs. But this data shows that prison sentences imposed far too often in Manhattan for nonviolent cases and others for which prison is not warranted. These excess prison sentences do not make us safer. In fact, they make us less safe because they increase the chances of recidivism. Well-designed programs to divert from jail to prison, blah, blah, okay. For the cases that the office does not recommend incarceration, the maximum sentence will be 20 years. Oh, it does recommend. Absent exceptional circumstances. Research clear that longer sentences do not deter crime, result in greater safety of the community. Any sentence above 20 years will require approval by the district attorney. That's usually true anyways. Opposing any sentence of life without parole. Everyone should have a chance for parole. Nah. I'm sorry. Serial rapists, serial murderers, I don't know. I mean, you can have them get a chance, but I don't know if the parole board wants to be peed on every 8 years. Supporting legislation repealing mandatory minimums, including New York's mandatory persistent statute, which means that somebody who's keeps committing the same crime would get a mandatory thing even if they've been let off multiple times. Eliminating the use of predicate felony sentencing enhancements. And cases involving substance use and mental illness will be analyzed through public health lens. That's good. Every case will be eligible for courts specializing in terms of programming, such as drug treatment, mental health treatment. No proffers or similar barriers will be required for eligibility. The office will take into account immigration consequences of charging someone with a crime and any sentences, take any active role through the parole process, charging crimes that fit the facts and not overcharging cases for the purpose of plea bargaining, opposing revoking probation or parole for technical violations or requiring community supervision where it is not needed, expanding restorative justice programming significantly and relying heavily on it, particularly for violent felony cases in which the victim consents. That's it. There it is, where the victim says, yeah, it's okay. The programming will be community-based and not operated by the DA office or any of the law enforcement entity. It will address the issues underlying criminal behavior and will be okay. In any case in which a person alleged violates the terms of non-incarceratory sentence or plea programming mandate, seek an incarceratory alternative to be imposed only as a matter of last resort after repeated opportunities are afforded to successful completion of the mandate. Research shows that the relapses are part of the road to recovery. For those struggling with drug addiction, incarceration should be reserved only for willful and flagrant violation of the terms of a mandate. Fine. Yep. Publishing, charging, conviction, and sentencing data along with racial and other demographic data that will help the community provide meaningful input. Reversing effects of mass incarceration is an urgent moral, civil rights, and human rights issue. By the way, certain criminals are going to run to New York if they get caught under this because the state will protect them from basically being charged harsher in another place if this is where he wants to go. But I think this is in reference. This is January 4th. I don't know when he put this out. There's no date on this. But in general, yeah. Yeah, this isn't as shocking. New York Post, same thing. Manhattan DA to stop seeking prison sentences in slew of criminal cases. Manhattan's new DA orders prosecutors to stop seeking prison sentences for hordes of criminals and to downgrade felony charges, including armed robberies and drug dealing. No, I'm guessing an armed robbery is a violent act. Said the office will not see a carceral except with homicides and a handful of other things, including domestic violence, felonies, some sex crimes, and public corruption. So politicians that ever pulled a gun on somebody can go to jail, but if you pull a gun on somebody, maybe not. That's what they're insinuating from this. The rule will be expected only in This rule may be accepted only in extraordinary circumstances based on a holistic analysis of the fact, criminal history, victims' input. The memo reads. Assistant district attorneys must also now keep in mind the impacts of incarceration, including whether it really does increase public safety, potential future barriers to convicts involving housing and employment, financial costs of prison, and racial disparities about who gets time. Like this guy. He's not going to jail. He's had a rough night. This guy's had, that's punishment enough. He got bounced off a curb. I don't know. Following instructions, reduce charges filed by cops and armed robbers who use guns or other deadly weapons to stick up stores and other businesses will be prosecuted only for petty larceny, misdemeanor, provided no victims were seriously injured and there's no genuine risk of physical harm to anyone. Meaning the gun was fake, meaning they didn't shoot anybody, meaning that they've never had a history of any other violence. There's like 3 people that will be affected by this. Armed robbery, a Class B felony, would typically be punishable with 25 years in prison, while petty larceny subjects the 364 days in jail. Again, jail, not prison, for a year. And they're like, yeah, next time use a real gun and you'll go to prison. Okay, this is all manageable. Convicted criminals caught with weapons or other guns will have those felony charges downgraded to misdemeanors unless they're also charged with a more serious offense, like using it. Criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree of Class D felony is punishable up to 7 years behind bars. Yeah, they're jacking up and filling all these things. They're just going to throw the guy in jail for a year. He'll get 6 months if he's caught with one. That's what they're talking about, instead of filling up the prisons. Burglars who steal from residential storage areas, parts of homes that aren't accessible to a living area, and businesses located in mixed-use buildings will be prosecuted for low-level Class D felony that only covers break-ins instead of more serious crimes because there's nobody there. Those more serious crimes, B and C felonies, would be punishable up to 25, 15 years of prison, respectively, which is a waste of fucking time. They're thieves. Save those jail cells for murderers and rapists. Drug dealers believed to be acting as a low-level agent of the seller will be prosecuted for misdemeanor. Yeah. So the low-level guys are going to get misdemeanor possession. Also, suspected dealers will only be prosecuted on felony charges if they're accused of more serious crimes or actually caught in the act of selling drugs, which is when most of the shit goes down if you're catching a big dealer anyways. These are distinctions without a difference. For fuck's sake. That felony would mean facing up to 7 years behind bars. Yes, and still stands. Dude. So, anyways, this is what he's saying. I don't know why he zips by to this other one real quick.
District Attorney Alvin Bragg announced that he was basically decriminalizing every crime short of murder. And now, new Mayor Eric Adams announced.
Well, no, Mayor, murder, sexual assault of any kind, any act of violence or selling drugs, or basically any layered offense. Any single offense is going to, that's nonviolent, is going to get a look-see. But if you're stacking a couple of things, if you have illegal gun possession and you've been involved in an altercation and you're drunk and disorderly, you're going to get a year in fucking jail instead of 7 years in prison. And they're going to try and work you back out and make sure and have somebody follow you around. And gun would be a major revocation, but weed wouldn't. Fucking hell.
He will not oppose a controversial new plan that will allow up to 1 million non-citizens to vote in local elections after just 30 days.
Yeah, local elections. So fucking what? These are people with work visas who are there all the time. It's goddamn New York. And he has no right to fight it.
Residency. Ironically, some of the critics are from the left, and they claim it will further dilute the voting power of black residents. While some smaller blue cities let non-citizens vote in municipal elections, San Francisco is the only major city that does, and that's just for school board elections. New York's move would be a major change in eroding election standards. Supporters say it's legal because it only applies to local elections, but it is already facing a lawsuit that claims it violates the New York State Constitution.
All right, well then maybe it does. Even more reason why he wouldn't interfere with it, because it's going through the courts.
Nancy Pelosi once said that in New York, a glass of water could get elected if it had a D by its name on the ballot. Maybe it's time for New Yorkers to stop voting for Democrat glasses of water and realize that what they're really doing is drinking the Kool-Aid. Well, if you want to stay clear...
Oh, God. Boring. Is this what Huckabee's show is always like? Son of a bitch. I feel like we all have to, Santa needs an intervention. Ugh, God.